Stream is live. You're watching Between the Headlines. Gary Franchi here. It is Monday. What's today? I don't even know. The 13th. Oh, yes, of July. It's 7:39 p.m. in Washington, the District of Columbia. 84 degrees, partly cloudy. And we're about to kick off this live stream with you joining the program. Let's get started with our White House rundown. Good evening. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, bringing you the latest White House news from the past 24 hours in partnership with our streaming ally, Trump Daily Posts. Tonight's headline is a forceful one. President Trump put national security, presidential authority, and American strength at the center of the day, while the White House also marked a solemn tribute to Senator Lindsey Graham, showcased the Freedom 250 Grand Prix on Executive Avenue, and pushed fresh results in the fight against fentanyl. Here is the full White House rundown. Now, according to the daily guidance from the White House, President Trump began Monday at 8 a.m. with executive time at the White House closed to the press. The schedule then set up a packed afternoon with the Freedom 250 Grand Prix showcase at 1:30, a 3 p.m. Oval Office meeting with the Speaker of the House and the Chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, a 4 p.m. live radio interview with Hugh Hewitt, and a 4:30 p.m. executive order signing in the Oval Office. The in-town pool guidance sent this morning matched that structure and confirmed clear weather in Washington with sunrise and a high near 87 degrees as the White House prepared for the day's outdoor events. By 11:59 a.m., the White House called a lunch lid effective at 1 p.m., the routine pause before the afternoon schedule moved into public view. At 1:14 p.m., the press pool gathered outside the West Wing and moved towards the Eisenhower Executive Office Building for the Freedom 250 Grand Prix showcase. Race cars were already lined up on Executive Avenue. Executive branch staff filled the steps holding small American flags, and YMCA played as the event space came alive. At 2 p.m., President Trump stepped into the Freedom 250 Grand Prix showcase alongside Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Roger Penske, Fox Sports CEO Eric Shanks, and the president of General Motors. The president used the moment to highlight economic strength, military power, and the administration's America 250 momentum, noting that 152,000 people attended the America 250 4th of July celebration. He presented coins to 3 IndyCar drivers, heard Penske say that the event could handle 100,000 attendees, received a commemorative helmet, and watched a pit stop tire change finished in 6 seconds. President Trump wrapped his remarks at about 2:10 p.m., shook hands with drivers and executives, and headed back into the West Wing at 2:19 p.m. without taking any questions. And soon after, the pool circulated transcript links from the Grand Prix preview event as the White House continued building out the public record from the showcase. The White House then confirmed the names of the 3 drivers who appeared with the president: David Malukas, Felix Rosenvist, and Alex Palou. And later in the afternoon, Stephen Miller taped a roughly 9-minute Fox News hit on the North Lawn. The follow-up transcript showed that Miller was taking questions on the war in Iran and also reflecting on Senator Lindsey Graham, saying Graham's admiration for President Trump extended beyond policy and into a personal bond. In a White House statement, President Trump honored the life and legacy of Senator Lindsey Graham after his sudden and unexpected passing. The president called the loss deeply personal, described Graham as like family, praised his political instincts and toughness, and singled out Graham's defense of Brett Kavanaugh as one of the top moments in Senate history. The White House also moved to fly flags at half-staff until 6 p.m. on July 18th as a mark of respect. In another major administration release, the White House announced the inaugural Fentanyl-Free America Summit and laid out new numbers showing the Trump strategy delivering results. The administration said that fentanyl deaths fell 22% from 2024 to 2025. Total overdose deaths dropped 14%. Seizures fell 45% in fiscal year 2025. And DEA testing found only 29% of seized pills now contain a lethal dose, down from 76% 2 years earlier. The White House tied that progress to cartel terror designations, the HALT Fentanyl Act, tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, closure of the de minimis loophole, and military pressure on narcotics and trafficking routes. The White House also highlighted nominations sent to the Senate for Keith Soderling to serve as Secretary of Labor and Andrew A. DeMello for a 15-year term as judge on the U.S. Tax Court. Well, the day's broader messaging underscored President Trump's Supreme Court win on executive removal power, a forthcoming Thursday night national address, and a hardline posture on keeping the Strait of Hormuz open under American protection. Taken together, the past 24 hours showed a White House moving on several fronts at once, honoring an ally, projecting confidence, promoting public events tied to America 250, and pressing policy fights on drugs, security, and executive authority. And that's the latest from the White House tonight. Now we're going to turn from the West Wing to the rest of the day's top stories across the country and around the world. Welcome to the next news broadcast on X, Trump Daily Posts, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Brian, I'm going to go ahead. I forgot to go ahead and schedule these segments out, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now before we kick everything off officially. I think if we can, we'll get this White House briefing on the out in the public for today at 7 o'clock. If we can manage that, that'd be great. So I'll just set your publishing time for 7 p.m. So that will hit the feeds at that time. And then our first story, we've got news on Iran. We'll be talking about Lindsey Graham as well. The latest in the SAVE Act, also some activity in New York, more news on Tim Walz, and flock cameras as well. So we're going to get all these stories locked in for you tonight. So make sure you got your popcorn ready, because it's going to be a spicy evening with all the news that we've got lined up for you. So we're excited to be back in studio, kicking off the week, and we're excited that you're here with us. So thank you for joining us. Make sure, as I'm scheduling these out here, that you have already copied the links, shared them out to your friends and your family, that you've send them out via text message. If you're watching on X, on any of our broadcast platforms there, you've reposted this feed. And if you've done so, drop a note in the chat room so that we can acknowledge and other people can see that they are not alone in spreading the news, that America needs to make informed decisions for themselves and their families. That's what we do here at the Next News Network, because we care about this country, we care about the future of our nation, and we care about you. We care about your families, and we want to make sure you have the information at your disposal and you have the ammunition to fight the fake news. That's what we do here every day. We load it up. We load up the revolver and we fire truth bullets every single day. And the only people that can pull that trigger is you and me. So we thank you for participating in that effort as well. So we're going to continue to schedule these segments out. Actually, oops, I forgot one more. And then we're going to get kicked off. We're going to kick off this first segment of the evening. So did you have a nice weekend? I hope you did. I know I did. Well rested. Last week was very busy, very wild. Especially with the... Dude, you guys, when I went to Milwaukee, I don't think you guys know this, but I was literally on like 20 minutes of sleep after the broadcast from the previous evening. So I got very little sleep, and I had a lot of catching up to do over the weekend. And not as young as I used to. When I started this channel, I was in my, I was in my 30s, I guess. Man, 2012. My goodness. Was I in my 30s? Yeah, I was in my 30s. holy cow. Okay. Anyway, as the clock ticks every day, we get a little bit older and a little bit wiser. And you guys are here every step of the way. So we thank you guys for joining us. All right, Brian, I'm ready to kick it off with our first report on Iran exposed. 0 U.S. troops dead. Trump taking the Strait of Hormuz. Everything seems to be lined up just nicely here. So we're going to get started. And looks like the views are coming in. I can see well over 5,000 people who have tuned in so far to this live stream. And I know you guys are waiting, and I won't keep you waiting any longer. Oh, okay, here we go. CENTCOM says that 100% of U.S. service members are accounted for after Iran pushed that lie. Let that sink in. Tehran blasted out propaganda about killing 3 American troops, and CENTCOM just torched it in one line. 0. None. Iran puffed its chest, painted a game over USA on a missile for the cameras, and then got caught faking battlefield success while President Trump snapped back. We are taking over the strait. They have nothing. That contrast is the whole story. Fraud on one side, dominance on the other. And wait until you hear the Bandar Abbas detail, because that part tells you that Trump is not posturing, he's already moving. So at 5 p.m. Eastern, CENTCOM launched more strikes to keep the strait open, and that's the stake right there. Not cable news theater, not UN performance art. The Strait of Hormuz carries the kind of global traffic that moves fuel prices, shipping everything that you feel in your wallet. And Iran's regime tried to choke it while firing at Jordan, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait, then tried to sell the world a fairy tale that it killed Americans. They lied, Trump hit back, and you can feel the difference. And listen to what Trump said. We're taking over the strait. They have nothing. He didn't beg Tehran. He cornered them. Then he exposed their game. An 11-hour meeting, everything agreed, and Iran calls back demanding changes. Professional stallers. That's who Barack Obama fed with $1.7 billion in green American cash on a plane. So I stop on that detail every time because you and I are still paying for that weakness. Trump is cleaning up Obama's mess with force, while radicals here at home still try to play footsie with the same regime. That's not diplomacy. That's sabotage-minded insanity. So Bandar Abbas just taught Washington a hard lesson. Wars are won by supply chains and not slogans. And that is why Vault Strategic Minerals matters right now. This breaking news from the White House: tungsten is a national security priority across fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition use. Yet, no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015. That left America exposed to China. Project Vault backs a $12 billion strategic stockpile and $30 billion for domestic production, with Pentagon support for restarting production. Vault Strategic Mining controls historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including a Nevada Great Basin flagship project, proven former mines, modern exploration techniques, and a defense-related exploration contract with approximately 10,000 feet of drilling. USGS cites 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide and an estimated in-ground value, buckle up, $30 billion to $50 billion. So watch KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States. America needs minerals and not weakness. Now, Bandar Abbas Naval Base got hit by 3 Corsair unmanned surface vessels yesterday. 3 sea drones slammed a submarine and ship maintenance facility inside Iran, and CENTCOM says it marked the first American combat use of sea drones. You see, that's not old thinking. That is Trump's military innovating while Iran clings to missile slogans and fake body counts. So I wanted to hold that back because it shows you the pace here. America isn't just reacting, we are rewriting the battlefield. Now we're going to walk through the post and watch how this bluff just collapsed in public. U.S. Central Command has now announced President Trump's direction. U.S. forces will resume a naval blockade of Iran beginning tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, according to CENTCOM. The operation will target maritime traffic entering and departing Iranian ports, while commercial vessels that comply with the blockade will continue to be permitted to transit regional waters. So the blockade order is already moving from words to force. Next, CENTCOM shows the strike on Bandar Abbas that hit Iran's sub and ship maintenance hub. This is dramatic video. Unclassified, newly released. Using multiple one-way attack surface drones, CENTCOM forces successfully struck a submarine and ship maintenance facility in Iran. Check this out. Look at that. Look at it's like they put a GoPro on a drone ship and just launched it right into a submarine docking station. 3 Corsair unmanned surface vessels hit the port at Bandar Abbas Naval Base, marking the first time American forces have employed sea drones in combat operations. Last night's strikes degraded Iran's ability to continue attacking commercial shipping. Now, with the dramatic onset of this Iran conflict since it began, President Trump has notably pulled back in recent months, or recent weeks, I should say, with the MOU that's been kind of percolating in the background. From my own personal perspective, I think that this thing just needs to get wrapped up, and he needs to just lock it down and really stop pussyfooting with these drones and just hammer the shit out of them. Pardon my French. So after the port hit, Iran ran to the usual propaganda playbook. Now comes the correction. Their claim about 3 dead Americans just got blown apart by CENTCOM. Eric Doherty writes that Iran is furious after learning their claims of killing 3 American troops in strikes were false. CENTCOM says 100% of U.S. servicemen are accounted for, and no Iranian strikes took them out.
Conducting a fresh round of strikes against Iran in an attempt to counter Tehran's aggression in the Strait of Hormuz. Let's go live to Tel Aviv where Mike Tobin has the details. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Lawrence. The latest in the back and forth with struggle for control over the Strait of Hormuz has Iran once again firing on its neighbors. Jordan, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait all took fire. The Kuwait is saying that border crossings, even an oil rig, were hit out there. There's been a lot of social media traffic suggesting that U.S. service members were injured in Kuwait. Those reports are not true. But this follows another round of U.S. strikes inside of Iran. There may be some fresh reporting today about new strikes. The U.S. says everything from missile launch sites to maritime locations that Iran was using to menace shipping in the Strait were hit. Dozens of targets were hit by land-based and sea-based fighter jets. Guided missiles were fired from ships in the area. This latest round of airstrikes came after Iran fired on a Cyprus-flagged cargo ship crossing the Strait. It was traveling outside of the route designated by Iran and following the route encouraged by the U.S. One sailor is now missing and the ship was disabled. President Trump says Iran triggered this round of violence.
So this back and forth really needs to end. They just need to just lock it down once and for all. But Iran lied about U.S. casualties. Trump says that's exactly how the regime operates. Listen to him spell out why he's done negotiating in circles. Says America is taking over the Strait. Here is the president this morning.
So, Mr. President, Lindsey Graham was definitely on your side when it comes to Iran and the threat, them not having a nuclear weapon. It looks like they're back at their business trying to take over the Strait. What's your response?
Well, we're taking over the Strait. They have nothing. They've got nothing. So something that nobody knows, yesterday they had an 11-hour meeting. Everything's 11 hours with these guys. You know, you can't settle a one sentence in 1 hour, in 1 minute. It should be 1 minute. And everything was agreed to yesterday. And they leave the room, and they call back, and they say, we had to make a couple of changes. I said, changes? They got to make changes? We're not going to make changes. Always changes. They just, they're professional negotiators. That's all they are. I don't even call them good at it. They haven't gotten anything. They got nothing from me. But if you look, for 47 years, they've been tapping people along, presidents. Every president got tapped along, didn't do anything, and they became more and more powerful. This should have been done 47 years ago. Shouldn't have been allowed to start. But Clinton let him go, and Bush let him go. Everybody let him go, and Obama was the worst of all because Obama actually went to their side. Obama, because, he's let's not say. Let's leave that for another time. He was terrible. And he allowed them he allowed Iran to, but he gave them $1.7 billion in cash, in green cash, put in satchels in an airplane and brought to Tehran. $1.7 billion. Do you know what that is? Did you ever see $1 million in cash? This is $1.7 billion. It took up an entire Boeing 757, and they flew it to Tehran, and they gave it to people that were waiting at a plane. Can you imagine these people? They never saw money, and now all of a sudden they've got $1.7 billion in cash, and he gave them hundreds of billions of dollars in cash and everything else. And he went to their side, and because of that, they became much more powerful because of Obama and Biden, who was the vice president, but he probably had nothing to say because he was not such a stupid person. But then Biden, when Biden came in, and then I held him down, I stopped him, and the JCPOA, I stopped it, and stopped it really, really powerfully. I ended that agreement was the worst. Somebody said C. Maybe it's the C. It ends with the C. That agreement is the worst agreement that has been signed by this country. That's the top 5 bad agreements. And that basically gave them everything. And they built and built and built. And they were minutes away from a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. Had I not terminated the agreement, the Iran nuclear deal, it's called, they would have had a weapon then. Had I not killed Khomeini, who was a brilliant but mad general. He was a crazy Soleimani. I killed Soleimani. Soleimani was like one of the really, really bad people in this whole thing. Right. But he was good at what he did. He was a very...
So Trump says the strait is ours to secure, and Iran has nothing left to bargain with. Now CENTCOM follows that up with another round of strikes ordered to keep Iranian forces off civilian shipping. At 5 p.m. today, Eastern, U.S. Central Command forces began launching more strikes against Iran to continue degrading their ability to attack civilian mariners and commercial ships freely transiting the strait. The commander-in-chief has directed the strikes to hold Iranian forces accountable. So they weren't a one-off. Next, the U.S. ambassador makes it plain Iran broke the deal, and every option is still on the table.
Well, I think Iran is still very much of the mindset that it can use the global economy as some type of leverage. We've, not just the United States, but we've said here at the United Nations, 143 nations have stood together and said what Iran is doing is in violation of international law. Regardless of whether you're party to some conflict, you cannot start shooting in all directions, attacking your neighbors, attacking civilian shipping, civilian infrastructure, throwing mines in international waterways, and acting like the irresponsible genocidal regime that many have always accused it of being.
Ambassador.
And so the world stands with the United States that this is unacceptable behavior. And the president, just to directly answer your question, has always said this was a performance-based MOU. Iran is not living up to it, and all options are on the table. We saw that from our great U.S. military overnight.
All options are still on the table. Now, President Trump puts his own label on it, declaring the strait open and naming the United States the guardian of Hormuz. U.S. Strait is open, will remain open, with or without Iran. We are reinstating the Iranian blockade, so named because it is only stopping Iran's ships or customers from entering or leaving. All other countries will have fair and open use of the strait. The USA will, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at a rate of 20% on all cargo shipped for any and all costs necessary to do the job, providing safety and security to this very volatile section of the world. The process and formation will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Trump is drawing the line right there on who controls the strait. But while America secures the waterway, Iran is still pushing thug theatrics, including a missile stamped with a message for the U.S. Iran launches missile marked Game Over USA. New footage circulating online from Jim Ferguson shows an Iranian missile bearing the words Game Over USA before what is described as a strike against American targets. The video emerges as Iran and the U.S. continue exchanging missiles and drone attacks across the Gulf. Game over, USA. At least they spelled it. So President Trump has long said that 90% of their ballistic missile capacity has been obliterated. So this must be in that 10% range. Mr. President, can we just finish the rest and go 100% so we don't have to play videos like this anymore? So that tells you everything about Tehran's mindset, threats, theater, and terror. Next, Trump points the finger where many Americans think it belongs, straight at Obama. Trump exposes to America that Barack Hussein Obama is the reason Iran strengthened and threatened the world. I gave them $47 billion in cash. You heard him say that in the previous clip. Trump says Obama's cash flooded the regime. Meanwhile, the rot at home gets uglier with a report that Mondami's office tried to set up a meeting with Iran during this hot conflict. What do you know? Chip Roy, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, says Ugandan New York City Mayor Mondami must be denaturalized and deported as soon as possible after Mamdani's office organized a meeting with Iran only to be shut down by Marco Rubio's State Department.
Okay. On the other hand, Iran likes to sponsor proxy groups of terrorists. And these terrorists don't care what they blow up. They blow up anything and everyone. Okay, this is who we're dealing with. Okay, this is an Iran that not long ago, through their Hezbollah proxies, blew up a Jewish center in Argentina and killed a bunch of people. This is an Iran that innovated the use of roadside bombs that killed and maimed a bunch of people, including American servicemen, but a bunch of other people. This is an Iran that has organized the assassinations and the attempted assassinations of people all over the world, including, civilians and dissidents and people they don't agree with. There is no nation on earth that sponsors more terrorism than Iran. And they've spent millions and millions of dollars sponsoring terrorism and targeting individuals all over the world, and including civilians have been caught up in that. Okay?
So while the administration is taking on Iran overseas, Americans are also hearing demands for tougher action here at home. Next up, outrage grows after Rashida Tlaib's latest ugly rant. Uh-oh.
Look at this rooms, motherfuckers! We ain't going anywhere! Political structures that I have to work in, that we all are surrounded by, was built on slavery and genocide and rape and oppression. Real change doesn't come from the cowards and warmongers in Congress. It comes from the streets. It comes from all of us mobilizing and seizing the power to resist and fight back. Gaza is the compass in this country. Now we're in Congress, and we're every corner of the United States.
The People's Conference for Palestine. Rashida Tlaib, DSA Congresswoman. So the fury over Tlaib taps into a bigger concern on the right about anti-American radicalism spreading inside our own borders. Now, we shift to Bridgeview, Illinois, where Ben Berquam says one neighborhood is becoming a warning sign, Islaming America. With the recent news out of Bridgeview, this needed to be reposted. Terry Newsom exposes the Islamification of his childhood neighborhood. This is happening in communities all across America, even in states like Arkansas.
You want to talk about the death of America? It's right here, just outside of Chicago, Illinois. They just renamed this Little Palestine. Terry, you grew up around here.
Yeah, it is. It's Bridgeview. That's Burbank. This is Harlem Avenue, so they're going to rename Harlem Avenue as Palestine Way.
Are you kidding?
No.
Are you kidding?
And
Talk about slapping the black community in the face.
Yeah, this is the beginning, so we're going to go a little bit down the block here. Wall-to-wall Muslim stores, restaurants. There's nothing wrong with having your culture come to America, just like all of us. But
if you can assimilate.
You beat me to it, yes. They want us to assimilate to their culture instead of the other way around.
Well, not only that, it's if you can assimilate and not want to murder us. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of religions around the world that may be false religions, but they don't come here to try to destroy this country and murder the people. Islam is not coming to assimilate. It's not coming to compromise. It's coming to take over. And all you have to do is look at places like this, or Dearborn, or Plano, Texas, or any of these places and see it.
Yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood's all over this place here. CARE, the Homeland Foundation, all over here.
This is national suicide if we don't stop it. But it's worse than this. Terry's going to take us where you grew up to show.
Wow. So from the street level warning in Bridgeview to the symbol of the people are fired up nationwide next. Little Palestine Way sign goes up, and critics say it's surrender dressed up as civic pride. Little Palestine Way, conquered without firing a shot. Welcome to Bridgeview. Little Palestine Way. So, President Trump, you heard him say it. He gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash. And I want you to sit with that image. An airplane full of cash landing in Tehran. Obama feeding the regime that now paints game over USA on missiles and lies about dead American troops. That was the seed. This is the monster. But now look at the reversal. Trump reopens the strait. CENTCOM confirms every U.S. service member is accounted for. American forces hammer Bandar Abbas, and the blockade targets Iranian shipping while lawful commerce keeps moving. That is Iran getting stripped down to what it really is, a terror regime with slogans, stalling tactics, and a collapsing bluff. Obama built their leverage. Trump is gutting it in real time. So Barack Obama, answer for the $1.7 billion cash pipeline to Iran? Start there. Because you can't understand this showdown unless you name the Americans who strengthened the regime now getting hammered by Trump. Iran lied about killing our troops. CENTCOM blew that lie to pieces. Iran tried to rattle the world economy. Trump snapped. The Hormuz Strait is open and backed it with strikes, sea drones, and a blockade that isolates Tehran instead of the civilized world. And you and I need to keep our foot on the gas here. No mercy for the regime, no amnesia for the weaklings who fed it, no patience for the radicals in this country trying to arrange meetings with America's enemy during a hot conflict. Watch the names, save the receipts, and back the strength that protects our troops, our trade, and our flag. Trump called the bluff. Now finish the job and make sure the people who created this mess never touch power again. And I want to make sure you're getting the news you rely on. Text raw feed to 844-840-4963 to get on the insiders list with thousands and thousands of Americans who are already bypassing the algorithm and getting notifications direct to their phone. All right. Terry Newsom called me the other day. I wasn't able to take his call. He probably wanted to talk to me about that. Unbelievable. Disgusting video. Right there. Little Palestine in the middle of the United States. They're just openly bragging about it now. Okay, we're going to be moving on into the news about Lindsey Graham. Apparently the FBI getting involved now. This is wild. We lost a great man, President Trump said as White House flags dropped half-staff. That's the picture right there. Trump honored Lindsey Graham with dignity, with command, and with love of country. And within minutes, Margaret Cho jumped online with that vile from the closet to the coffin line. Read that again. A sitting senator dies, and the ghouls sprint to the grave before the family can even breathe. Trump called Graham a friend who never stopped working. The internet sewer turned him into content. And wait until you hear the part about the Iranian target image from last week and the 4 p.m. secession move in South Carolina. You see, Kash Patel, he said every resource necessary is available as threats swirl around this death. And that's not a side note. I'm going to ask you to stop on that line with me. The FBI director didn't toss out a hallmark message and move on. Kash Patel locked federal weight behind this because Lindsey Graham isn't just any senator. He had pushed a Russian sanctions package. Iran-linked agitators had blasted out a Target image with his name on it just last week. And foreign enemies never hide what they want. Then you stack that against Margaret Cho mocking the dead and the rumor peddlers on X turning a coffin into clickbait. You can feel the sickness. Trump stepped in like the adult in the room, lowered the flags and said everything for him was about work. It was about loving the country. That matters because South Carolina now faces a decision from Henry McMaster, and the seat cannot fall to some weak-kneed anti-Trump drifter while Americans' enemies sniff blood. And we are learning now this late-breaking news that Lindsey Graham's sister has been named U.S. Senator, interim senator, by Governor McMaster. President Trump supporting the move. Now, when a U.S. Senator dies and the noise machine starts feeding on confusion, you remember how many systems in this country are rigged the same way, including Medicare. The Medicare confusion industrial complex buries seniors in junk so they stay stuck. Chapter cuts through it. Simple by design, one call, one advisor. They look at your doctors, look at your prescriptions, your whole situation, and tell you the truth. No propaganda, just facts. Clarity matters here too because confusion protects the middlemen. But they work for you, not big insurance. So if you're already on the right plan, they'll say it. If not, they can help you. They can help you switch. It's free. It takes under 20 minutes. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. There's a number on your screen there. Give them a call, 910-728-4109. In moments that matter, clarity beats the vultures every single time. So at 4 p.m., Henry McMaster picked Darlene Graham, Lindsey's own sister. And that detail stopped everybody cold because it's not just about mourning. This is about whether South Carolina locks in steadfastness while the mob howls and the rumor merchants keep feeding off chaos. And Trump didn't just praise Graham from a podium. He moved on secession too. So look at the contrast. Trump brings order, the vultures bring smears, and when we get to the post, watch how quickly the internet filth and the foreign threat angle collide in the same ugly feed. Here's the actress Margaret Cho mocking Lindsey Graham's death and appears to wish that President Trump is next.
Bye, Lindsey. Bye, Lindsey Graham. From the closet to the coffin. Real seamless. Real seamless. Also, yeah, Mitch McConnell. So it's Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It does happen in threes. Hope.
Hope. You know what she's alluding to there, of course, right? I think we can all read between the lines. So that's the left showing exactly who they are, mocking death and aiming their venom at Trump. Now, look at the response from the White House where President Trump orders the flags lowered half-staff for Lindsey Graham. By order of the president, flags of the White House are lowered to half-staff in memory of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. So after the formal tribute from President Trump, the big question turns to what really happened. Laura Loomer raising alarms after Graham's Ukraine trip and asking whether the death needs a full investigation. Here's the question. Did Russia just poison Lindsey Graham? There seriously needs to be an investigation. Russia just sent a delegation to Khomeini's funeral in Tehran, where the IRGC and funeral organizers were calling for myself, Laura Loomer, President Trump, and Senator Graham to be assassinated. Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine one day ago calling for a Russian sanctions bill that he claimed the White House supports. Now he's suddenly dead from a random illness, according to staff. Did Russia just murder a U.S. senator? That's the question.
We've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support. It means it's going to become law. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war. There's some things we can do on the technology front to build on the lethality of Ukraine to protect itself from ballistic missile attack. If we did that, combined with creating tools to punish those countries that prop up Putin, that make money off this war, then I think we've got the best chance since I've been coming here in the last 5 years to get Putin to the peace table.
And within hours, Lindsey Graham would be no more. So that's Graham talking in Kyiv about sanctions on Russia. And now the threat picture gets even darker. Libs of TikTok has the image showing Iranian agitators openly targeting Lindsey Graham just last week. They called for his assassination. Sooner or later, your heads will roll. Lindsey Graham's face with a target on it. So it wasn't just random chatter. There was a direct threat on Graham's life. Next, Loomer connects that warning to Russian voices, including a Putin ally, and even Tucker Carlson fallout that's raising questions. Not too long ago, she writes, Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin advisor Alexander Dugin, who called for Lindsey Graham to be assassinated. Dugin has since deleted the tweet. And just a few months ago, Tucker had blood splatter imagery of Lindsey Graham on his podcast to vilify him with the title, They're Hijacking MAGA. Oddly enough, around the same time this podcast aired, Dugin said the same thing about Graham, while Russian state media called for the pro-Ukraine senator to be assassinated. Last week, Iran and Russia called for Graham's assassination. One day after returning from Ukraine, he is now dead. Poison can cause someone to go into cardiac arrest. That's, of course, what the medical examiners have claimed. Was Lindsey Graham assassinated by Russia or Iran? That is the question. It's time for all these insane woke Reich podcasters with ties to Dugin be investigated by Kash Patel and Scott Pacent. It's obvious these podcasters all have coordinated and nearly identical messaging with Russia, and it's time for them to be investigated by the DOJ. Why was Tucker allowed to go to Russia to interview Putin and Dugin? What's the real story? So here is the post from Alexander Dugin that she is referring to. Better to kill this guy. He is the problem for Trump. The world will be better without him. Alexander Dugin's post since deleted. So explosive allegations, but now the move from online messaging to the federal response. FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau is assisting local authorities, putting every necessary resource on the case. Official post from the FBI Director. Senator Lindsey Graham was a devoted public servant, fierce defender of our nation, a true patriot who dedicated his life to the people of South Carolina and the United States. Our prayers are with his family and loved ones. The FBI is assisting local authorities and has made every resource necessary available. So the FBI is involved. The speculation is not slowing down. Mario Naval spotlights claims from a former CIA analyst, Larry Johnson, who says the timeline around Graham's death just does not add up. Rumors are flooding the web about the sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham. According to some, the number one Senate supporter of Ukraine may have died on Ukrainian soil, and admitting it would shatter the entire war narrative. Former CIA analyst Larry Johnson says his sources inside the National Military Command Center were saying it openly. Listen to this.
I'm going to ask you this. I know you're avoiding speculating, but just to see where your mind is at, have you got any theories in mind that you're considering?
No, I mean, it could have been a heart attack. I'm just saying the heart attack was suffered. He probably suffered a heart attack when he was hearing explosions in Kyiv. It's something he's probably never heard before.
But why would they lie about that? Why would they?
What do they lie about anything? I mean, show me. We just talked about how they're lying about the Strait of Hormuz being open.
Yeah, but that's
one more lie.
Yeah, but I'm saying usually there's a reason to lie. You want to lie to make it seem you're winning a war, to manipulate markets.
Yeah, so why? You want to admit that you're the number one senator proponent of Ukraine died in Ukraine in the aftermath of Russian military strikes? Well, that doesn't fit the narrative too well. And all I can tell you is I've also heard from people who had access to the Pentagon, to generals in the command center, National Military Command Center. They were walking around talking today saying he died in Kyiv.
When did he visit the drone factory? I'm curious. Can you tell me again?
Friday afternoon, but I don't know the time.
So if you vote Friday afternoon, so let me see. Because he might have visited. So when do you think he left Kiev to Poland?
The earliest he could have left would have been the following morning, Saturday morning. But again, why would Graham fly 20 hours, fly and take a train for 20 plus hours to do just a tour of a drone factory, and then the next morning get back up and repeat that whole 21 hour journey?
So that's the question being raised here. The theory that Graham may have actually died in Kyiv, but not everyone's buying it. Next, a blunt pushback arguing this may have been a sudden medical event, not a hidden foreign operation. BS, if he died in Kyiv, it'd be just as hard to hide the casket getting home over the long train ride military plane. He loved to eat Chick-fil-A, waffle fries, fried chicken sandwiches. That's not smart for someone over 70. Atherosclerosis is a killer. You can't even see it or feel it until you get the sudden heart attack. For example, a person doesn't even need to be overweight. Just Google Jim Fix. So the rebuttal cuts against the online frenzy. And now we turn to the voice that matters most. President Trump reacts to the passing, calling him a friend.
Well, I don't feel great. He was a great guy, and he was a friend. He would call me all the time. He would just I'd say, stop calling me Lindsey. It was amazing. He just didn't stop. And he was a worker. He was a total workaholic politician. Now, some people don't call that work. Some people call that a lot of talking. But everybody loved him. He was good on the other side. If I had Democrat problems, he could solve them. He was a man of all different abilities, actually. And he was a nice man. He was a great guy.
Nice man, a great guy. President Trump's first tribute was personal. Next, he goes deeper. Talks about his loyalty, his role in key fights like Kavanaugh, and the one moment Trump says Graham regretted most immediately.
Which didn't surprise me at all. And he said, I'm back, and told me a couple of things. He was very strong on fighting for the Save America Act. And I'm not sure if he was at the beginning, but he really became the primary advocate for it. And I think he would have felt the same way about terminating the filibuster, which was so important. I mean, it's so important. The Republicans have to do it. It's so insane. Otherwise, we're going to have a shutdown in September, and we have a debt ceiling problem coming in 2 years. And if you terminate the filibuster, everything goes away. And we do anything we want. We pass everything we want, and the Democrats are going to do it. And he started to see that because he was against, because everyone's sort of against, not everybody, 20% were against. He was one, and now he was starting to say, terminate the filibuster. Otherwise, we're going to have, these continued ridiculous, crazy, Trump deranged. They're Trump deranged. These people suffer from a very fine disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. And he was seeing that. And
Mr. President,
so
did you notice
he was really come a long way on the terminating the filibuster, which is the single smartest thing we could do, because then you'd get everything. That's bigger. But even if we took the small loaf, and the small loaf is the Save America Act, and it's very simple. It's voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, and it's no voter ballot. It's the ballot. Look what happened to the kid in California. They sent a million ballots. Nobody knew where they came from.
Yeah.
So it's you don't do mail-in ballots unless you're in the military, you're in deployment, you're in the military. You don't do them if somebody's sick, if somebody's disabled, or if you go on vacation. You get a pass. We make it nice and easy.
But Mr. President, did you notice anything
California,
different?
They find millions and millions of ballots. It's impossible. Spencer Pratt came up to my office. He said he thought he won. I said, why didn't you complain? He didn't know who to complain to. But what they did to that guy was unbelievable. He's a nice guy. He worked so hard. And they found millions of ballots, And they took the election away from him. They almost did it to Steve Hilton. I complained. I got the U.S. attorneys involved and the FBI. And as soon as because he was, they were putting out reports. Steve Hilton is starting to fade. He's running, as you know, for governor of California. And they said, Steve Hilton. I said, here we go. They're going to find ballots. And they said he was starting to fade. He wasn't fading. He was the opposite. and I put the U.S. attorney involved. They said, well, no, in 2 weeks after can you imagine? This is the week after the election. They're saying he started to fade. And then I got the U.S. attorney involved, and they didn't know in 2 weeks. They let it be known an hour later.
So, Mr. President, real quickly, did you notice anything different from
that
Lindsey
he's going to be in the runoff
on the phone?
These elections are very dishonest, and you can't have a country unless you have really honest elections. And when people don't want to have voter ID, when people don't want to have proof of citizenship, it's only for one reason, because they want to cheat, and they're very good at it.
So Trump lays out Graham's record. Now comes another tribute from the president, this time boiling it down to one message. America lost a man who worked nonstop for the country.
We lost a great man. He was a great man. He was a great politician, and he was a kind man. And you know who really lost? Israel, Ukraine, a lot of countries that he really fought for. And they lost somebody who was very special. But the real loser was the United States of America. We lost a great person, a kind person, a very smart person, and a great. You know, they ask me sometimes, what do you think? He was a great politician. You know, we have mostly bad politicians. We have stupid politicians all over the place. This guy was a great politician.
So after honoring Graham as a patriot and a fighter, the next story shifts to what comes next. Barina Morello reports that Trump is urging South Carolina's governor to name Graham's sister Darlene as interim senator, which we can now confirm has occurred. From the closet to the coffin, Margaret Cho sneered after Lindsey Graham died. There it is, the mask off. A U.S. senator is gone. Trump is standing there saying if I had a Democrat problem, he could solve them. And Cho decides to grave dance. That it's comedy, and it's sick, really. Then right next to that filth, you've got Iranian threat imagery, naming Lindsey Graham as the target just last week, and Laura Loomer blasting the Dugan Post, calling to kill him. So while Trump lowered flags and honored a man he spoke with constantly, the less celebrity gutter and America's foreign enemies flooded the same swamp of hatred. That's the split screen. One side mourns a patriot, the other side mocks death, farms, chaos, and treats an American senator like disposable propaganda. Henry McMaster just picked his sister to replace him, and Kash Patel must get answers, and that's where this goes now. We honor Lindsey Graham the way President Trump honored him, with respect, with seriousness, and with the plain truth that we lost a great man, but we do not let Margaret Cho, anonymous rumor hustlers, Iranian agitators, or Russia-adjacent propagandists hijack this with filth and circus smoke. You and I can hold two thoughts at once: mourn the man, demand the facts. Trump already showed the country how a leader acts. Half staff of the White House direct tribute. No games, no ghoulish performance. Now the institutions need to match that standard, investigate every threat, lock down every lead. And South Carolina is now sending somebody into that seat who backs Trump, loves the country, and won't fold when the jackals start circling. And we're not folding either. I've read your messages. I understand your frustration. You're not getting notifications. You can't find us in the feeds anymore. And that's why we set up this number. Thousands of patriots have already signed up to make sure they get notifications from me instead of YouTube. Text raw feed to 844-840-4963 and get on the list so you stay in the loop. Okay, there we go, Brian. I decided I didn't really feel like just plugging the merch. Like sometimes it is, I don't know. Sometimes I just don't want to do it. Like what, Okay, all right. You may have seen the short video I posted earlier today. I was testing out some new production environments. This next story goes deeper into that. Elissa Slotkin, what she recently said, as it relates to Ted Cruz, too. So, that's the only reason I'm aware the live stream is occurring, Eric says. Thank you. All right, let's get this next story. Oops, wrong button. 20,000 people are watching. Amazing. Elissa Slotkin said the SAVE Act would make Democrats lose any election. Stop right there. She said the quiet part straight into the microphone. Proof of citizenship, voter ID, basic election security, and Slotkin blurted out the Democrats cannot win if Americans have to prove they belong on the voter rolls. That's not a gaffe, that is a confession. Now stack that next to Mitch McConnell going absent, Ted Cruz grabbing the Rules Committee gavel on Monday, and President Trump pushing Mike Johnson to get this bill to his desk. You can feel the trap snapping shut here, and wait until you see the procedural choke point they can no longer hide behind. 51 GOP votes is the effective majority with Mitch McConnell absent this week. So I'm going to read that number again, 51. That means there is zero room for Senate theater, zero room for cartel games, and zero room for one fake Republican to slither off and hide behind procedure while Democrats protect chaos at the ballot box. And look at the split screen with me. President Trump is meeting with Speaker Johnson right now to get the Save America Act passed. You see, the House already passed it 3 times. And Elissa Slotkin is out there blurting that fair rules would crush Democrat wins in any state. Why would voter ID and citizenship verification terrify her that much? Well, you already know why. Democrats need ambiguity. They need loose rolls. They need a system where citizenship gets treated like an inconvenience. And the Senate machine has buried this for months. McConnell, his allies, the usual GOP saboteurs. If Cruz has the gavel and this still stalls, you and I will know it was not an accident, it was a choice. See, Elissa Slotkin just admitted fair rules threaten Democrat power, and Washington is fighting the same war on resources. Vault Strategic Mining tracks a critical mineral supply chain emergency. Tungsten is now a tungsten national security priority for fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition use. The U.S. has had no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015, while China dominated supply. Now, Project Vault, you've heard me talk about it, pushes a $12 billion strategic stockpile and $30 billion for domestic production, with Pentagon support for restarting production. Vault Strategic Mining controls historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including a Nevada Great Basin flagship project, proven former mines, modern exploration techniques, and a growing U.S. tungsten portfolio. USGS cited 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide with estimated in-ground value of $30 billion to $50 billion. Watch KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States. Syria's countries secure the chain. Now Monday, with McConnell gone, Ted Cruz rules as the original SAVE sponsor, and that detail changes everything. We're not talking about another empty press release and a bunch of consultant fluff. Ted Cruz, now sits on a live procedural lever, and he's already backed using every tool if leadership blocks the bill. So watch the body language, watch the scheduling, watch who suddenly starts babbling about process, and that is where the fingerprints show up. In a second, I'm going to walk you through the post because they expose exactly who is cornered and who still thinks you will not notice. Here is the Democrat Senator Elissa Slotkin. Says the Save America Act, which would mandate voter ID and citizenship verification, would make it hard for any Democrat in any state to win an election.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was literally allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. And disenfranchise all married women in the meantime, by the way. It just you have to show your birth certificate at the polls if you have a married name.
Yeah. Of course, we do not believe that level of propaganda. Just outright lies continuing to spill from the left. And she says the quiet part out loud. Secure elections make it tougher for Democrats to win. Now here's the cleaner version of the same warning, with the focus squarely on proof of citizenship. Democrat Senator Elissa Slotkin warns if the SAVE Act passes, Democrats will have trouble winning elections in any state. The SAVE Act would require proof of citizenship when voting. So Democrats are admitting the SAVE Act is a threat to their machine. Next, Scott Jennings goes on CNN and lays out why Trump is right to use every bit of leverage to force this vote.
Look, I think the president is part of the legislative process. He has opinions. He has the right to use the leverage of his office to try to get the Congress to do things. In this particular case, he's not stopping the bill from becoming law, but he is using it to make a point. His top priority is the Save America Act. And by the way, he's not wrong about this. Vast majorities of Americans want voter ID. They think this is not an unreasonable thing. They think it's common sense to try to secure our elections in that way. And so he's making his political point about that. I think he's right about it. I think the Save America Act would be good. And I think some of the stuff in there is very common sense you were talking about bipartisan ideas. There's no more bipartisan idea in America than voter ID in our elections. And so the president, I think, has a political point to make, and he's well within his bounds to make it. President Trump, by the way, is hardly the first political leader in this country recently to care about election laws. In fact, when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, H.R. 1, the number one bill in the House under Pelosi, was an election bill that had to do with federalizing our elections. So both parties have had opinions about how to run elections in this country. It's not unique to Donald Trump, but he certainly feels strongly about it. And I can tell you this, every single Republican I know just about thinks it's a good idea. And so I can see why the president's touting it, because his base absolutely wants it.
And that's fact. We do want it. We need it. The public is with Trump on voter ID. But in the Senate, the math gets tight fast, and Mitch McConnell's absence suddenly makes every single GOP vote count. Mitch McConnell officially going absent from Senate floor votes as Senate resumes business this week following a lengthy recess. The effective majority is a mere 51 GOP votes right now, super tight. That means even if we can do Save America Act without the filibuster, we can only lose one single Republican for J.D. Vance to break the tie.
Cho saying he has been hospitalized after suffering a fall last month. This breaks weeks of silence amid growing speculation and concern about the senator's condition. McConnell saying, quote, "My doctors have confirmed I didn't break any bones or suffer a concussion. I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't have any tumors or hemorrhages." The senator says he underwent tests to determine what caused that fall. He was also treated for mild pneumonia, adding he's been moved now to a rehab facility and is regaining his strength. He says he has every intention of getting back to business as soon as he can.
So with McConnell out, the margin razor thin, Swamp has no room to move. Now Speaker Johnson says Trump is personally pushing to get the Save Act across the finish line.
Come back, gather everybody together. The big urgency is to get Save America passed. The president has that as a top priority, and so do I. We passed it 3 times in the House. We're going to try one more time on a budget reconciliation bill, and I think that will be the way to get it through the Senate and finally to the president's desk. So that's forthcoming.
Okay, I want to.
So Johnson says the urgency is real and Trump wants it done. Next, the pressure shifts to Ted Cruz, because with the Rules Committee gavel in hand, conservatives want actions and not excuses. Cruz just got the keys to the Rules Committee. Here's what he can do with them. Monday, McConnell absent. Cruz chairs the rules. Not vague promises, not we'll see, named procedural levels, specific committee power now. Original sponsor of the Save America Act, his own bill, publicly said he used every tool to beat the filibuster. On record, backing nuking the filibuster if leadership blocks it. McConnell already joined Dems once to kill the last procedural motion. The bill needs 60 votes. GOP only has 53. Texas voter ID, the model he cited for years. House already passed it, sitting dead in the Senate for a month. The bill requires citizenship and proof to register. You guys know what it already has. Every excuse he's ever given evaporates Monday. It's not a hearing. It's a test. You don't get handed the Rules Committee by accident during 1 week and your own bill needs a procedural push. You get handed it. The entire country finds out in real time whether the original sponsor meant something or was just a talking point. Cruz's own words are now the ultimatum. Monday is 0 hour. So hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. That's what Slotkin said. There it is, the entire scam stripped bare in one sentence. She did not say the SAVE Act was unconstitutional. She did not say it was unworkable. She said Democrats would lose because the bill demands proof of citizenship and voter ID. That means the party fighting this bill is fighting for a voting system that benefits from murk, from weak verification, and from blurring the line between citizens and everyone else. Well, Slotkin blurted that out. President Trump hammered to get the bill passed. Mike Johnson pushed to move it, and Ted Cruz got the committee perch that can expose every blocker in the Senate. So if Senate Republicans freeze now, after Democrats confess their motive out loud, they're not getting outplayed. They're protecting the racket. So Ted Cruz uses the Rules Committee gavel to force the fight into daylight. That's the assignment. No more bedtime stories about Senate custom. No more McConnell-style choke points buried under procedure. I mean, you heard Slotkin admit what the bill does. It makes it harder for Democrats to win when elections are secured. Good. See, that's called fairness. That's called citizens deciding American elections. And President Trump is doing exactly what a real leader does here. He's using the weight of the presidency, meeting with Speaker Johnson, and demanding movement while the establishment hunts for trap doors. So now we keep the hot light on every Republican senator, every one. If Cruz moves, we back him. If he stalls, we name it. If McConnell's allies kill this again with only 51 effective GOP votes in play, they own the sabotage. It's Judgment Day. And you guys better be ready to remember every single name. And I want to make sure you don't miss out when the news breaks. That's why we set up this telephone number for you. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already signed up to get on the inside track with the Next News Network when the YouTube notifications never arrive or you can't find our news anymore. Yes, we've heard your frustration. We're just as frustrated as you. So text raw feed to 844-840-4963 to get on the inside track with the Next News Network. Okay. Now we are moving into the next topic. Leftists exposed by one Iran reality check. Trump targeting the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America. Maybe you've heard of them. Yeah, they're certainly making a, not making it, they're surging is what's happening. They're surging. It's terrifying. Quote, anybody who's affiliated with the U.S., F them. That's what the woman snapped on camera. Then Savannah Craven's crew hits her with Iran, real Iran. Women can't show their hair, can't live free, gays can't exist openly, and you can watch the anti-American swagger drain right out of the spoiled leftists in real time. And that's the part I want you to sit with. She trashes America while standing safely in America. And the second reality shows up, the axe starts cracking. And she's not fringe. That poison runs straight through the Democrat base right now. And wait till you hear what the Democrat socialists say next about borders and deportations. If you want to be an up-and-comer in the Democrat Party, you have to be a declared socialist. Ben Ferguson ripping the mask off. Steve Guest backing it up flat out. Socialism has taken over their party. So when that woman spits anybody who's affiliated with the U.S., F them. Don't let any slick media clown sell you the lone weirdo routine. No, we're looking at the culture the Democrat machine fed, flattered, and pushed. And look at Grace Mauser, the New York City DSA co-chair. Fox asked a dead simple question, open borders and no deportations? And she can't answer it because the answer blows up their whole scam. She ducks into Ellis Island nostalgia while Trump fights to secure the country right now. You see the pattern? America-hating street radicals, DSA infiltrators, celebrity socialists cheering wealth taxes until their own bank accounts get hit. This isn't protest energy. This is a hostile ideology aimed right at sovereignty, law, success, and the nation that gave these people everything. When Grace Mauser can't even say who gets to stay in America, you better ask a harder question. What happens when the same people wire your money into systems you don't control? Everybody cheers AI in the cloud until your bank locks, your access vanishes, and your savings exist as digits that can't be frozen by a keystroke only until the keystroke hits. Noble Gold Investments gives you something real. Physical gold, physical silver, a coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, something that doesn't live on a server and can't be erased by code. It can be shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantaged retirement account. Go to nextnewsgold.com. Just mention my name for a free 10-ounce, that's right, 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Own reality before radicals digitize everything. Now, Grace Mauser gets asked open borders and not having deportations and instantly flees into a grandmother at Ellis Island story. You're going to see the dodge. Don't miss it. She doesn't defend law, she doesn't defend deportations, and she sure doesn't defend the border. She hides. Because the real DSA position is demilitarize the border, sideline enforcement, and shame you for wanting a country at all. And that line, it lines up perfectly with the woman screaming, F anybody tied to America. Same sickness, different microphone. I'm going to walk you through the receipts now because these posts nail the whole machine to the wall. Ready for this? Listen.
Anybody who's affiliated with the U.S., fuck them. I hate anybody affiliated with the U.S. Which flag is the most offensive?
Yeah, which one is the most offensive? That's the Iranian regime flag. Do you know what that one is? Soviet Union?
Soviet Union?
Yep.
Yo. Anybody who's affiliated with the U.S., fuck them. I hate anybody affiliated with the U.S.
Are you affiliated with the U.S.? You're affiliated with the U.S.
You're right. I hate that I'm affiliated with the U.S. Why? Yo, this is a freaking dictatorship. Trump sucks mad.
Aren't you gay?
I am. How could you tell? You judge a book by its cover? How do you know I was gay?
Because I'm gay and I know gay people.
Okay, the gaydar is going off real strong.
These are worse than this.
I got a lot of learning to do. Teach me something.
In the Iranian regime, women cannot own property, women cannot show their hair, women cannot vote, women cannot hold public office.
Can't be gay.
And if you want to divorce your husband under the Iranian regime, no matter how horrible they are, they get your children. Does anything I just said apply to America?
No.
How is this oppressing you? How are you oppressed right now?
I'm
KKK.
She's black!
I'm a black woman, a part of the KKK.
And I'm gay!
I'm a gay black woman in America. Gay, black, and a woman.
What can you not do that other people can?
What can I not
legally
do? What can I not do that other people can legally? Is this?
It's okay to admit that you don't know if there's.
I don't know.
Because there is nothing, and let me tell you, as a gay woman, a lot of us have been brainwashed to believe that we are oppressed, right? We can get married, we can have kids, we can hold a job. There's nothing a gay woman can do that a straight woman can. Nothing.
What's your outreach like? What are you guys trying to do like?
So exactly what we just did is have a conversation.
We want to make sure that people like you are not believing that they're oppressed because that actually keeps you down.
Oh, that was beautiful. Savannah Craven on the camera. So the beach interview wrecks the victimhood script in real time. Next, a top New York DSA official gets a simpler question on open borders and starts to tap dance. Enter New York City DSA co-chair Grace Mauser, who dodges when asked if she believes in open borders and no deportations.
Do you really believe in open borders and not having deportations? That's just incredibly contrary to law enforcement and security.
America has a really long history of welcoming working class immigrants. My grandmother and her mother came through Ellis Island and worked from Germany and worked as seamstresses. I mean, we believe that
criminal illegal aliens in the country, don't they need to be removed?
We believe that demilitarizing the border, that violent oppression of working class immigrants who come here is not something that most Americans want. And I think the backlash to President Trump's policies really show that.
She couldn't even give a straight answer on deportation. Ben Ferguson lays it out. Socialism isn't from some fringe sideshow. It's climbing straight into the party mainstream. Socialism isn't the fringe anymore. It's the mainstream of the Democrat Party.
Look, there's a civil war, and it seems the mainstream Democrats have lost it, that socialism has taken over their party. And if you want to be an up-and-comer in the Democratic Party, you have to be a declared socialist. Goes back to Graham Plattner and the reason why they were willing to apologize for so many horrific indiscretions, and they were willing to protect him at all costs. This was created by the woman right there on the screen, AOC and Bernie Sanders. They said that they were socialists, and people kind of laughed it off, and they're like, oh, they're just kind of an extreme wing of the party. No, they're not. This is now the mainstream of the Democratic Party. So look, Republicans, if you talk about their agenda between now and November, it's a very tight vote count. You mentioned that in your monologue. But Democrats have a bigger problem going the midterms than I think they could have ever imagined, which is, who are we, and how much do we have to lie to the voters to convince them? You can get a socialist elected in some places like New York City. You can get a socialist elected in San Francisco or L.A., but can you get one elected statewide in a place like Maine, for example? That's going to be their problem.
And it's a big problem for them to have. If socialism is now Democrats' main brand, the next clip shows how that takeover works. This Canary Mission video argues the DSA isn't partnering with Democrats, it's using them as a tool to hide from the inside. Spencer Pratt, socialism is sedition.
It's no secret that the Democratic Socialists of America hate the Democratic Party.
I think we're all on the same page that we hate the Democratic Party.
Democratic Party is not really our friend. It isn't.
So why are the DSA such major players in the Democratic Party? This odd relationship can be understood with the cuckoo analogy. In nature, the cuckoo survives by trickery. It lays its egg in another bird's nest. The unsuspecting parents raise the imposter as their own until the cuckoo grows strong enough to push the true chicks out. The DSA is the cuckoo inside the Democratic Party.
DSA is not the Democratic Party.
We must separate ourselves from the toxic Democratic Party.
We can put forward a clear, aggressive, principled strategy that pushes back against the Democratic leadership and the Democratic Party as a whole.
DSA candidates run as Democrats in safe blue districts. They slip through low turnout primaries. And once inside, they use the Democratic label as camouflage while advancing an extremist anti-American agenda far beyond the party's mainstream.
I don't agree with the Democratic Party, but it's a great tool.
The Democratic is a tool that we use.
Once in office, DSA candidates take orders from DSA's internal enforcers and working groups. City halls and state houses start running as socialist machines controlled by the organization, not the Democratic Party, and certainly not voters.
They have to have a connection with DSA's internal politics, and they have to be committed to the eventual goal of building a separate entity from the Democrats.
DSA are revolutionaries, and the Democrats are their first victims. And in city after city, DSA victories prove their plan works.
I think that the model that we used in New York is 100% replicatable.
And just like the cuckoo, once the DSA grows strong, it pushes the true Democrats out, hollowing the party from within,
building towards political independence and tearing apart the Democratic Party.
The DSA is not here to strengthen the Democratic Party. It is here to consume it.
We're not here to make the Democrats a little bit better. We're here to actually enact socialism. And socialism is not just better capitalism. It's overthrowing the entire capitalist state.
It's our duty, DSA, to cultivate this power.
The cuckoo is in the nest, and New York City is poised to elect not a Democrat, but Zohran Mamdani, an extremist within the DSA.
We understand that winning an election is not an end. It is a means to an end.
The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
Ultimately to overthrow our own empire.
We need a movement that can drive a stake to the heart of the empire.
We need to orient ourselves towards insurrection.
Wow. Canary Mission nailed that one. Spencer Pratt amplified it. And when radicals use the party as cover, even their celebrity cheerleaders feel the pain. Ben Stiller backs the socialists and suddenly has a problem when the wealth tax starts hitting people like him. Ben Stiller voted for the guy, then found out the tax plan had his name on it. It's amazing how fast tax the rich becomes, wait, you mean me? Nothing says buyer's remorse like realizing you're on the receiving end of the very policy you cheered for. Congratulations, Ben. You got exactly what you voted for. Ben Stiller turns on New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Months after endorsing and voting for him, woke actor Ben Stiller now blasting Mamdani's proposed wealth tax on people worth over $1 million. So, remember that quote? Women cannot own property. Women cannot show their... And then, of course, the clip cuts. Through her tantrum, that's the reality check. Not a slogan, not a campus chant. Iran's regime crushes women and gays for real. And this anti-American left is still open with hatred for the United States. See, I stopped there because that single exchange torches the whole left-wing fantasy. They romanticize regimes and movements that would crush them first. AOC and Bernie Sanders opened the door to this garbage, and the DSA stormed right through it. Spencer Pratt's cuckoo bird point nails it. They nested inside the Democrat Party, grew fat, and started shoving out everybody else. Then Ben Stiller gives you the cherry on top. He backed Mamdani, then started squealing when the wealth tax tagged millionaires over $1 million. That's the left in one frame, smug until reality sends the bill. Democrats need to answer for Grace Mauser, for Zohran Mamdani, and for that F the USA clip. No more hiding behind activists and energy and all the other garbage labels they use to dress up their contempt for America. You and I just watched the receipts. The Democrat Party let socialism set up shop inside its own walls. Ben Ferguson said, if you want to rise in that party, you have to declare yourself a socialist. Believe him. The evidence is all over this story. DSA radicals dodge deportation questions. Celebrity liberals beg to tax the rich until they find out that they are the rich. Street leftists trash the country that protects their freedom to mouth off in the first place. So what comes next? We reject it. Loudly. We back Trump's America First movement harder. We expose every anti-American fraud by name, and we stop pretending this poison is harmless. These people don't need another excuse. They need a political defeat so complete they never get near the wheel again. And I want to make sure that you are clearly holding the wheel. That's why I set up this telephone number. I've seen your messages. I understand your frustration. Thousands and thousands of patriots are getting the notifications that YouTube never sends because I'm sending them to you guys directly to your phone every night. Just text raw feed to 844-840-4963 and get on the inside track with the Next News Network. Okay, now we're moving into the latest from the controversy that is still swirling around Tim Walz in that controversial pardon when he pardoned a child rapist. I still can't believe that even happened. And then they defend them. They defend the decision. Oh, you're going to see it. I'm going to present it. You'll see it. I can find no reason Minnesota gets safer or better by deporting Tu Lu Vang. Tim Walz said that out loud about a man who repeatedly raped a 10-year-old girl. Sit with that for 1 second. Walz didn't slip. He exposed himself. While Trump's DHS moves to rip predators out of this country, Walz is still fighting for one. And this filth doesn't stop in Minnesota. Illinois Democrats, they lost track of 243 violent offenders. And J.B. Pritzker's machine keeps cashing checks while families pay the price. Wait till you hear the ankle monitor number. And that Safari Transportation Exchange gets even dirtier. 243 criminals in Cook County went missing from electronic monitoring. 8% gone, unaccounted for. See, that number is insane. Murderers, attempted murderers, sexual assaulters, and Cook County Democrats lost them, just lost them. While families locked their doors, this machine played catch and release with predators, and they called it compassion. Then you jump back to Minnesota and Tim Walz saying deporting Tulu Vang, a child rapist, would not make the state safer or better. How do you even say that without your conscience exploding? And down in Illinois, a 9-year-old girl got snatched off her bike and raped by Hanio Guinuel Velasquez Murrow, while J.B. Pritzker keeps posturing like the adults are the problem. Then the insult lands even harder. Pritzker's family Hyatt empire pockets $9 million in taxpayer funds, while regular people get hammered on property taxes. You and I are watching the same pattern slam into view. Protect the criminal, feed the cronies, and tell the public to shut up and trust them. Tim Walz can find no reason to remove a child rapist, so smart Americans better track where real national security actually lives. Breaking now, Washington and the Pentagon are hammering the critical mineral supply chain because tungsten is now a tungsten national security priority for fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition use. The U.S. has had no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015. Project Vault pushes a $12 billion strategic stockpile and $30 billion for domestic production. Vault Strategic Mining is moving into that fight with historic tungsten assets, proven former mines, modern exploration techniques, and a Nevada Great Basin flagship project. The United States Geological Survey flagged roughly 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide with an estimated in-ground value of $30 billion to $50 billion. Now you can track KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States. America needs reliable supply outside of China. Now, there's no safari transportation here. That came right after activists read the Minnesota registration out loud. That part stopped me because the paperwork said the business was current at that address in Minnesota. Then the people at the location flatly denied it existed. So what are we looking at here? Ghost companies, fake filings, another little fraud pocket tucked inside the same pocket protection of Democrat racket? I'm going to show you how this connects. The same crowd that wants blind trust on crime and immigration can't even keep their own paperwork clean. I'm going to show you the receipts because the posts themselves are just brutal. Homeland Security posting this. Walz claims that deporting Tulu Vang did not make his state safer or better. The links that sanctuary politicians will go to defend sickos like this is truly disgusting. That is from the Department of Homeland Security.
Board of Pardons is made up of Governor Tim Walz, State Attorney General Keith Ellison, and the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court. Here's Walz explaining their decision.
In Mr. Vang's case, I would state this, that I can find no reason how Minnesota will be safer or better if Mr. Vang is deported to a country he has not been to since he was a child.
Yeah, that's Tim Walz for you. Said deporting the child rapist wouldn't make Minnesota safer. Now look at Illinois, where Darren Bailey points to another illegal alien accused of snatching a 9-year-old off her bike and assaulting her. Darren Bailey, who is currently challenging Governor J.B. Pritzker for the governor's office, posting that a 9-year-old girl was snatched off her bike, forced into a car, and raped in Illinois by an illegal from Venezuela. J.B. Pritzker thinks we shouldn't deport this monster.
New at 11, a Hampshire man is accused of snatching a 9-year-old girl off her bike and sexually assaulting her. Police say this happened last Friday afternoon in Pine Grove. Investigators say Janio Velasquez Muro grabbed the girl from her bike and forced her into a car. Velasquez Muro was arrested after an extensive investigation that included surveillance video and neighborhood canvases. He will stay in jail until his next court date.
So the first Illinois report laid out the attack. Next, Bailey zeroes in on the suspect's jail record, says this case is worse than the first headline showed. Pritzker protects illegal murderers, pedos, rapists, and gang members, but he won't protect our daughters. This is the arrest record. here. Kane County Adult Justice Center location. Aggravated kidnapping. 13 years old. Less than 13 years old. Severely, profoundly, mentally retarded. Oh my goodness. What a sick bastard. So you've got a suspect in custody. A no-bond child kidnapping charge. Meanwhile, another Illinois failure hits even closer. A repeat felon winds up inside Pritzker's own backyard. A 10-time felon escapes electronic monitoring, jumps the fence into Governor Pritzker's own backyard. This is the direct reality of the SAFE-T Act, pushing violent and repeat offenders back onto our streets.
Man is charged for trespassing at Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's home in Chicago. Happened the night of July the 4th. According to the police report, 46-year-old Dwayne Milton was seen on camera jumping over a fence, walking in the backyard of Pritzker's home.
Wow.
He was quickly arrested, admitting to officers he had an outstanding warrant in Cook County for shoplifting. There's no indication he was armed or even knew that it was Pritzker's home. Milton's due in court for this on July the 27th.
So if criminals are bold enough to hop a governor's fence, what does it say about the system? Next, we answer with the hard numbers from Cook County's electronic monitoring mess, including hundreds of offenders now missing. Cook County Democrats ran a pretrial program for murderers and sexual assaulters so they wouldn't be in jail awaiting trial. 8% just went missing. 243 criminals, including murderers, all of them, no idea where they went.
Works out to 8% of the people on electronic monitoring in the pretrial program in Cook County and Chicago who are unaccounted for. Even the state's attorney says we should all be deeply concerned. This is the same system that was ignored by Lawrence Reed, a career violent criminal with 72 arrests. His ankle monitor showed that he'd been out all night twice and was violating his curfew on November 17th of last year when police say he boarded Chicago's L train and set a complete stranger, Bethany McGee, on fire. This is the same ankle monitor system that was ignored by 26-year-old Alfonso Talley. Records show he'd been in trouble for all of his adult life. He disregarded his curfew to the point that he didn't get home to charge the battery and the ankle monitor went dead. Police say on April 25th he went on a crime spree that ended with a mother of three, pistol whip with a broken nose, one police officer dead, another fighting for his life. 3,048 people were released pre-trial on electronic monitoring. Almost 20% of them are charged with violent crimes. 7% aggravated battery, 4% criminal sexual assault, 0.8% charged with murder, and 246 of them cannot be found.
Not only are they missing, they have no idea where they're at. None. Zero. They don't know if we're in the state of Illinois. They have no idea where these individuals are. So think about that. I mean, it's not like they could just go out and start looking for them, but they have no clue.
The system alerts on a low battery or curfew violation. After 48 hours, a judge can be notified, and that judge can issue an arrest warrant. But any sheriff's deputy will tell you there are thousands of warrants in the system. Without an alert on a specific individual, they get lost in the pile. But the Cook County chief judge did tell a local reporter yesterday that law enforcement is actively searching for the people who are at large. Sandra?
Yeah, sure. They're not just bad statistics, they're dangerous people the system lost track of. Shifting gears, Bailey says, well, Illinois families get no property tax relief. Pritzker's family empire is cashing in. Apparently there's no money for property tax relief, but the new budget hooks up Pritzker's own Hyatt Hotel empire with $9 million in taxpayer funds. What a joke. So after the money trail, the focus shifts back to Minnesota, another possible fraud trail. Activists confront a business address tied to Safari Transportation and say that the paperwork doesn't match what's on the ground.
How are you? We're looking for the transportation company.
Safari Transportation?
Looking for Safari Transportation?
No, there's no Safari Transportation here.
No Safari Transportation?
Safari Transportation is 607 Cedar Avenue.
We're just looking for Safari Transportation.
We don't know.
So, but this is registered for Safari Transportation, 607.
That's the address. Okay, we don't know.
We're asking where Safari Transportation is.
We don't know.
Okay, so the business is not here.
Don't record. Fuad Omar?
Fuad Omar?
We don't know. This, do you see this? What is this?
Money transferring.
That's it.
Okay,
well, this
registered.
Is from the state.
This is fraud taking place. This is supposed to say, this is for Safari Transportation.
Go find out.
Yeah, we did find out. This is fraud right here.
Registered here.
This is registered.
2015.
Safari Transportation, state of Minnesota.
2015, oh yeah.
Well, but it's registered now. This is current, just off the state of Minnesota website today. This is from today. I just printed this off today. Fuade Omar.
Go check it out.
We're here. This is 607. Where's Safari Transportation?
Okay, it's no Safari, period.
Okay, so it's a fraudulent business.
Did you see Safari anything here?
Exactly.
Did you see?
Exactly. It's
Did
not
you
here.
see it?
It's a fraud.
Did you see, sir?
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the next address. All right, let's keep moving on. So 607, this is supposed to be Safari Transportation, no transportation company. And now we're going to 617, another transportation company. However, it is actually Cedar Riverside Liquor.
Gotta love Nick Shirley, man. Gotta love Nick Shirley. A 46-year-old felon jumped the fence into J.B. Pritzker's own backyard on July 4th. You can't script a better indictment than that. Illinois Democrats built a system so weak, so gutless, so soaked in fake mercy, even the governor's mansion fence didn't scare a repeat offender. At the same time, Cook County had 243 monitored criminals missing with no idea where they're at, none, zero. Then Tim Walz piles on with that grotesque line about Tulu Vang not making Minnesota safer or better if deported. So look at the whole picture with me. Walz shields a child rapist. Pritzker presides over roaming felons and a raped 9-year-old case tied to an illegal alien. The machine doesn't break by accident. It protects predators by design, and Trump is the one smashing straight into it. Tim Walz, J.B. Pritzker, and Cook County Democrats need subpoenas, audits, removals, and nonstop exposure. No more soft language. No more hiding this under policy jargon. You heard Walz's own words. You saw the 243 missing offenders. You saw the Kane County booking record for Juanio Guionel Velasquez Miro. You saw the $9 million flowing towards the Pritzker family empire, and you heard that absurd, there's no Safari Transportation here. That denial. Well, the state paperwork said otherwise. So what do? We track every Trump deportation, every DHS crackdown, every law and order move that corners these sanctuary enablers and rips their shield away from predators. We keep names attached to the damage. We make Tim Walz own that quote. We make J.B. Pritzker own those victims. And we do not let the media wash this slime off with euphemisms, because children pay the price when Democrats run wild. And I want to make sure you're getting the news. YouTube's running wild by not sending you guys notifications. So I set up this number to defeat that. 844-840-4963. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already signed up, and they're getting the news that they expect, but they're getting it from me and not from YouTube. Make sure you stay on the inside track like the thousands of patriots have already done. Okay, next topic we are going to be moving into. Checking all of your comments here. Put Walls in the tunnels, Karen. This is Spot Kenny. Rio, what's up? Eric, Kentucky Trailer Man. Jeremy, good to see you guys. 34,739 people watching. Remarkable. Okay, let's get the latest on the flock cameras. That's a big topic these days, and rightly so. People can search your historical travel information for 30 days. Stop right there. Read that again with me. 30 days. Every car, not a suspect, not a warrant. Every car passing a flock camera gets logged, time-stamped, mapped, and stored like you work for the regime and owe them your whereabouts. That's the detail that blew the story wide open for me. Then you stack on Houston citizens cutting these things down, LAPD bailing over civil liberties, and Flock's own people smearing critics as terrorists. This is not a safety tool. This is a corporate tracking grid. And wait until you hear who Flock compared ordinary Americans to. 700,000 crimes a year. Josh Thomas bragged while Flock stored everyone's movements. That's the con. You can hear it the second he says it. They sell you a big number, then they hide the dragnet underneath it. And look at the mechanism. Flock cameras snap a time-stamped image of every vehicle police can search, 30 days of travel history. Now Ben Jordan says it plainly. Build that map out and it functions like a GPS on your car for an entire month. You feel the shift, right? We're not talking about catching one bad guy. We're talking about Larry Ellison-backed tech power, compliant local governments, and police agencies building a searchable movement database on innocent Americans. Church, gun range, school board, campaign stop, pro-life event. All of it sits waiting for whoever controls the query box. When even LAPD says civil liberties and civil rights concerns are too big to ignore, that tells you that this thing got so toxic even Blue City cover artists couldn't keep selling it. When police can mine 30 days of your movements, you start thinking about every hidden thing elites ignore. A 35-year-old man had a worm moving in his eye after eating uncooked fish, and the World Health Organization says that 1 in 2 affected by parasitic infection prevalence is real. That can fuel brain fog, chronic fatigue, IBS-like symptoms, pain that won't go away, even severe chronic conditions. Parasite Purge features Jonathan Otto's full-spectrum parasite elimination protocol, a typical cleanse alternative with a science-backed parasite formula plus red and near-infrared light therapy for healthy cellular function and natural detoxification processes. You also get free bonuses, including the 10-day intensive parasite detox protocol to prepare your body, support the cleansing process, and maximize your results. Go to purgemyparasitesnow.com. Use code NNN45 to save 45% for a limited time. Stop letting hidden invaders run wild. So at least half a dozen Flock cameras were cut down across Harris County. That's not internet noise. That's physical revolt. And the part that jumped off the screen at me, Houston police still can't lock up a single person because, as the report says, nobody in the city is assisting them. Think about that. Public trust in the surveillance racket cratered so hard the people around it just folded their arms and let the cameras fall. That tells you where this country is heading right now. I'm going to walk you through the receipts and the posts that are blowing this whole thing open. Police in Houston are panicking, have started an immediate investigation as citizens continue to destroy Flock cameras across the city. The police are struggling to make a single arrest because nobody in the city is assisting them with the investigation. Public distaste for the cameras growing nationwide.
According to a crowdsourcing map, this is a Flock camera. Well, it used to be. If you take a little bit of a closer look, you can tell it looks like it's been cut down. And the camera itself, it's nowhere to be found.
Growing distaste for Flock cameras is manifesting in Harris County two ways. Through public means.
Having Flock in Harris County makes us less safe. It puts all our county's residents' lives at risk of mass surveillance.
And vandalism.
That there was no rhyme or reason to where these cameras were placed. The county essentially allowed Flock to take over our streets by placing ALRPRs anywhere they pleased.
Eyewitness News has found at least half a dozen Flock cameras cut down across Harris County. Houston police saying so far no one has been arrested, but they are investigating. The destruction comes as county commissioners voted unanimously Thursday to amend their contract with Flock, not to restrict Flock, but to ensure the device is available for use countywide. The cameras collect information and can be accessed by agencies who have contracts with the company, like law enforcement. Experts tell ABC 13 public distaste for the cameras is growing nationwide, along with concerns for mass surveillance, privacy, and data sharing.
For many in society, they're looking at what the negative unintended consequences may be if this information gets leaked or someone uses it and finds itself in the wrong hands.
Flock saying on their website they do not sell data to third parties and that all searches are recorded. According to Flock's website, their product is different from traditional security cameras.
While security cameras capture an area, Flock says their system uses machine learning to take clear photos of license plates and store it with a physical description of the cars.
Good God. So Houston voters are ripping the cameras down. Cops can't even get help finding the people doing it now. Let's go to Los Angeles, where LAPD is walking away from Flock over privacy and civil liberty concerns. LA Police Department ending its contract with Flock cameras over civil liberties. Officers have confirmed that these cameras collect data on Americans. The contract set to expire and will not be renewed.
LAPD says that it helps them in tracking down suspects involved in a crime. Now, some people in the community like that surveillance. Others say that it violates their privacy. LAPD says that concern is what led to its decision.
Well, this contract's not being renewed because of serious concerns around civil liberty and civil rights issues, particularly around privacy and the data that's being collected from these cameras. So the LAPD had to make a difficult decision of continuing, in this case, discontinuing using Flock services until we can get those data, privacy, security, and sharing concerns ironed out through a contractual relationship.
LAPD's contract with Flock ends tomorrow, and their tech department is not sure if the cameras will still be recording. LAPD doesn't own the cameras. In many cases, they are owned by organizations and homeowners associations who have allowed police and the city to have access to them. Now, LAPD says it is having ongoing conversations with the company in revising the agreement. They want updated language around privacy and the storing of data to be included in this new agreement. I've reached out to Flock for a comment about this, and I am still awaiting a response.
And you'll keep waiting, I'm sure. So even major Blue City Police Department admitting there's serious privacy problems. Next, here's Flock's CEO smearing Americans pushing back as the equivalent of Antifa-style terrorists. CEO of Flock has labeled everyone opposed to Flock cameras terrorist organizations comparable to Antifa. That's how they view regular Americans pushing back against their mass surveillance.
We've got organizations like the ACLU and the EFF who take an above-board approach to fight for their point of view. And thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic, capitalistic country where we can fight in court. And I have a lot of respect for those groups because they have reasonable debates and we follow the law. And then unfortunately there's terroristic organizations like DFLOC, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that I think is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety. So for those groups, I think it's just disappointing that they haven't chosen a more constructive mannerism to try to get what they want, which they have a right to have. But that's why we have a democratically elected process, right? Like we're not forcing Flock on anyone. Elected officials know that as a community, you want to be safe.
So that's the arrogance at the center of the operation. Question mass surveillance, they brand you the enemy. Up next, the real issue. Police can search 30 days of vehicle data, creating what critics say is a backdoor GPS log for every car. DC Drano says creating a de facto GPS tracker system for all cars is unconstitutional. Abolish the Flock cameras.
Flock license plate readers take a time-stamped photo of every vehicle that passes every camera. Police can search your historical travel information for 30 days.
This creates a searchable database of everyone, not just the suspects of crime.
Security researcher Ben Jordan.
And it's like if you were to build a graph of that sheet, and plot it to a map, now it's as if you've had a GPS on your car for an entire month.
By your own publications, 700,000 crimes a year are solved with Flock?
Flock Safety Chief Communications Officer Josh Thomas.
Reported crimes in America, yeah. So there's a lot more that probably are being helped that aren't being reported. But yes, we have about 700,000 crimes that we are aware of that are being solved in part with evidence that's derived from a Flock safety device.
In order for that historical data to be of investigative value, you have to track every car for 30 days.
Again, I would challenge you on the word track. Tracking the whole of your movements is very different than knowing that you passed by one specific camera, 24 specific cameras. Those are different things.
And then the examples of tracking that vehicle from location to location to location.
But Flock's own webinars talk about its license plate readers' ability to track vehicles and people.
If you want to know how bad this Flock camera situation is, just watch the first 24 seconds of this video. Flock says its cameras don't track people. Its own training videos say otherwise. I watched this, my mouth literally dropped within 24 seconds. I'll play a little bit more for you, but just this first part is wild. Pay very close attention to when he says, this is a police department and these are all the other agencies and departments that it's sharing its information with. It's mind-blowing. It's literally crazy. Watch this.
In Boulder, Colorado, inside a small coffee shop. The brighter areas are where the really high density of flock cameras are. Will Freeman runs the largest police camera tracking system in the nation. If you click on any of these police departments, it'll show you who they're sharing with. So the lines going outward are the agencies that can access their data directly. It's called DFlock. The app shows where the cameras are and which way they're pointed. How many cameras have you mapped? 88,970 cameras at the moment. Why did you want to do this? The main reason is to show people how invasive this is.
Wow. So if police can search a month's worth of travel history, Americans have every reason to push back. Now one says Flock's legal team is trying to shut that pushback down with a cease and desist.
We have received a cease and desist order from Flock Legal Safety Affairs. Fuck you, Peter Thiel. Fuck you, Larry Ellison. I do not give a shit. Any false or fake news post pertaining to Flock cameras or CEO major shareholders will result in legal action. Sincerely, Flock Group Dan Haley, head of legal affairs. Okay, here's the deal. A couple weeks ago, I dropped some videos where I said you could get free Fuck Flock stickers on my website and you shouldn't put them on cameras. I then decided to go start making hats that block your face from facial recognition. Furthermore, I made very copious amounts of very mean memes toward Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel and also Donald Trump because I don't like politicians. Folks, we have received a cease and desist on this and they told us to stop. I am not fucking leaving. We still have Fuck Flock stickers. Go get them if you want them. Rock and roll.
Oh my goodness. Closer to Antifa. Flock's CEO said that, branding DFlock a terroristic organization. There it is. There's the mask coming off on camera. Flock built a system that logs ordinary drivers for 30 days. Then when Americans push back, their CEO doesn't debate the privacy nightmare. He smears the public as extremists. Well, Dan Haley's legal team fires off cease and desist threats. LAPD is dumping the contract over civil liberty and civil rights issues. You can watch the split screen in real time. The public spotted the trap. Houston residents started tearing cameras down. Los Angeles backed away. Flock panicked and started name-calling. That's what happens when techno-authoritarians get cornered. They don't defend freedom, they defend the database. LAPD let the contract expire. Every mayor and county board should follow tonight. Rip the contracts out. Name every official who wired Flock into your streets. Demand the records, the vendor agreements, the retention policies, the search logs, all of it. Because once police can punch in your plate history for 30 days, you do not live in a free country anymore. You live inside a digital checkpoint system dressed up by consultants and sold by legal goons. And look, the good news is right in front of us. Houston showed the revolt is real. LAPD showed the retreat has started, and Flock showed its panic by smearing citizens and threatening critics. That means the surveillance lobby got caught. So push harder, call it out locally, hammer city officials, expose every contract, abolish the camera grid before these people turn every public road in America into a searchable file on you and your family. And make sure you're getting the news when it happens, not when YouTube decides to surface us in the search results or maybe send you a notification. See, I've read your comments. I'm just as frustrated as you are, and that's why I'm personally paying for this service. I set it up. Thousands and thousands of patriots are already signed up. They're getting the notifications that YouTube never sends. Why? Because I'm sending them to your phone directly. We're bypassing them altogether to make sure you get what you ask for. Make sure you text raw feed to 844-840-4963 and get on the insider list right now. All right, folks, that is a wrap for the show tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Mary and Dawn, Pothead Kenny, IGWTS, Kentucky Trailer Man, Free Spirit, everybody filing in. Thank you for your support tonight. Let me check if there are any super chats or anything else to mention. Ah, yes, Mrs. Pothead Kenny became a member. Chris dropped $10. God bless Lindsey Graham. Condolences to his family. Marky Mark, keep up the great work. Thank you. And another one from Marky Mark on Rumble. All those data centers are for flock tracking. They want 15-minute cities, control, prison, and police state. So thank you guys for your super chats tonight. Couldn't do this show without you guys. You guys are the heart and soul of this entire network. You're the network, right? We just present the news, we break the narratives, and then we send it out. And you guys are the foot soldiers helping us spread the word. Again, there's a serious effort to silence the work that we're doing here. The only way around it is when you guys share these reports, when you repost the stuff on X, when you copy the YouTube links and text them to your friends. Hey man, Gary just launched a banger today. You got to see this. That helps us tremendously, and we can't do it without you guys. We'll be back. We will be back tomorrow with more news. So we'll see you then. Good night, and God bless.